If you are over 60 and your blood pressure keeps creeping up, even though you cut the salt, cut the soda, and did everything your doctor asked, the real culprit is not on your dinner plate. It is sitting in the fruit bowl on your kitchen counter right now, hiding behind a halo of health that the grocery store put there. And one of these 7 fruits, the one I will save for last, is something you almost certainly ate this week thinking you were doing your heart a favor. Hello, my dear ones. My name is Camilla Hayes. For 35 years, I have served the women of these South Carolina foothills with the plant medicine my grandmother taught me, and her grandmother taught her 4 generations back of root work and kitchen healing. I have sat with more than 12,000 women, most of them past 60, most of them tired of being rushed and dismissed at 15-minute appointments. Most doctors will not bring this fruit conversation up at your appointment. Not because they are hiding it, but because there is no pill bottle for fruit. There is no billing code for the produce aisle. So you walk out the door with a prescription and a pat on the shoulder, and the real culprit stays right there on your kitchen counter, slowly, quietly destroying your arteries while you think you are doing everything right. In the next few minutes, I am going to walk you through the 7 so-called healthy fruits I have watched quietly hurt these women. I am going to tell you the hidden reason your body cannot defend itself against them anymore the way it could at 40. And I am going to share the simple swaps that have given my own clients their morning walks back, their garden mornings back, and the steady arms to lift a grandbaby without their chest squeezing. Stay with me to the end. Number 1 is the master one. 9 out of 10 women over 60 get it wrong every single day. And the order matters here because each fruit on this list builds on the last. But before I name a single fruit, you need to understand why your body is so much more vulnerable now than it used to be, because this is the part nobody tells you at the doctor's office. After the age of 60, your gut loses up to half of its beneficial bacteria. By 70, that loss can climb to 80%. And that gut, my grandmother used to say, baby, all sickness starts in the belly. She was right then, and the laboratories are right now confirming what she knew at her stove. When the gut bacteria are gone, the inflammation that hardens your arteries has nothing left to hold it back. The same fruit that did nothing to you at 40 now drops sugar into a body that cannot process it the way it used to. Remember this number, 50% gone by 60, because in a few minutes I am going to tell you what I finally found that fixes it. It is not what most folks would guess. Now to the fruits. Number 7 is canned pineapple. I know pineapple sounds like sunshine in a bowl, but the canned version is something different entirely. The fruit is soaked in a syrup that is almost pure fructose, a sugar that bypasses your normal blood sugar response and goes straight to your liver. Think of your liver like the old well pump on my grandmother's back porch. It can handle a steady drip all day long, but pour a bucket in all at once and the gasket starts to leak. That leak shows up in your bloodstream as tiny fat particles called triglycerides, and those particles are what stick to the inside of your arteries. After 60, your liver loses about 30% of its processing capacity, so the same can that did nothing to you at 40 is now a flood your body cannot drain. My grandmother never put a tin of fruit in her pantry, not once. She said anything that did not rot was already dead, and dead food made dead bodies. The fix is simple. If you want pineapple, eat it fresh, in small cubes after a meal that already has protein in it. The protein slows the sugar down like a cloth over a sieve. And here is a quiet pairing tip from my grandmother's kitchen. Sprinkle a little cinnamon on top. Cinnamon is a friend to your blood sugar, and almost nobody talks about it. But this next one is the one most folks defend like it is family. Number 6 is dried cranberries, those little red jewels you toss into salads thinking you are being virtuous. Look at the bag closely sometime. Most are coated in added sugar because the fruit itself is too tart to sell. So what you are eating is essentially candy that was once a berry. And here is what nobody tells you. The concentrated acid pulls calcium straight out of your blood, and the calcium that gets pulled from your blood comes from your bones to replace it. After 65, your bones lose density at almost twice the speed they did in your 50s. Pulling calcium daily, even in small amounts, adds up up faster than you realize. This is why my client Dorothy from Cedar Rapids, a retired school teacher of 74, came to me with osteoporosis she could not explain. What was overlooked in her case was the handful of dried cranberries she added to her oatmeal every single morning, thinking she was helping her urinary tract. We swapped them for a small spoonful of fresh berries. She told me, Miss Camilla, I cannot believe a little red berry was robbing me. The fix is fresh cranberries when they are in season, or unsweetened dried in tiny amounts only. And please ask your doctor about your bone density if it has been more than 2 years since your last scan. Now, let me tell you about a fruit sitting on almost every kitchen counter in America. Number 5 is the overripe banana, not the firm, slightly green one, the brown, soft, sweet one you keep meaning to use up. Once a banana ripens past golden, its starch converts almost entirely to simple sugar. A medium overripe banana hits your bloodstream the way 3 teaspoons of table sugar would. But here is the part that worries me more. Bananas at that stage carry a compound that makes your blood platelets stick together more easily. Imagine your blood like the creek behind my grandmother's house. When it flows clean, the water moves around the rocks. When it gets thick, debris catches and dams form. Those dams in your arteries are called clots. For women past 70 whose blood naturally thickens with age, an overripe banana eaten daily compounds the problem in a way that few people understand until they are already in trouble. The fix is to eat them firm, never alone, always with a tablespoon of nut butter or a small piece of cheese. The fat slows the sugar release down to a gentle stream. Hold on, because this next one might be the most surprising of all. Number 4 is watermelon. The summertime queen, sweet, juicy, 92% water. What could possibly be wrong? Watermelon has one of the highest glycemic loads of any fruit when you eat it the way most people do, in big cold chunks on a hot afternoon. That sugar rush, repeated through a summer, slowly stiffens the inner lining of your arteries. The medical word for it is endothelial dysfunction. Think of your artery walls like the inside of a garden hose. When the hose is supple, water flows through smoothly. When it becomes brittle, every pulse of pressure pushes harder against a wall that no longer gives. That extra pressure is what we call high blood pressure. The old grandmothers in our hollows knew watermelon was for celebration days, not everyday eating. They would slice a wedge for a Sunday picnic, and that was the end of it for the week. The fix is small wedges with the seeds when you can find them, and always alongside something salty and protein-rich, like a piece of feta or a few olives. The salt and fat blunt the sugar surge. Number 3 is store-bought orange juice. And yes, I know your doctor probably told you to drink it for the vitamin C, but that small glass on your breakfast tray is one of the most concentrated forms of fructose you can put in your body. 6 ounces contains the sugar of 3 to 4 whole oranges without any of the fiber that would slow it down. Without the fiber, the sugar hits your liver like that bucket I told you about earlier. And here is the part nobody tells you. The pasteurization strips out most of the actual vitamin C anyway, so you are getting the sugar without the benefit. My client Eleanor from Savannah, a retired church pianist of 78, came to me with rising morning glucose and a crushing fatigue she could not shake by noon. She had cut out everything sweet, in her words. What was overlooked was the small glass of juice she had drunk every morning for 50 years because her own mother told her it was healthy. We swapped it for half a real orange and a glass of water. Her fasting glucose dropped 22%, but it only dropped that far once we did the second piece, and I am going to tell you what that second piece is right now, because Eleanor's story is the reason I started recommending what I am about to share. For 30 years, I tried everything for my clients. Slippery elm, the way my grandmother kept it in her pantry, fermented foods, sauerkraut, kefir, bone broth simmered on the back of the stove for 2 days. Each of these helped a little. None of them got my women all the way home. I would watch a 68-year-old woman cut her sugar, swap her fruits, walk every morning, and still her inflammation markers would not fully come down. Still her bowels would not move easy. Still her blood pressure would creep. and it took me years to understand why. Remember that 50% gut bacteria loss I told you about earlier? You cannot fix that with food alone. By 65, your gut simply does not produce what it used to. You can plant the best seeds in the world, but without good soil and without the compost that feeds it, nothing grows. That is why my grandmother's garden worked. Three things together: seed, soil, and the food that feeds the soil. The body needs the same three. In modern terms, probiotics to repopulate the bacteria, prebiotic fiber to feed them so they actually survive past your stomach acid, and postbiotics, the actual healing compounds those bacteria produce. Probiotics alone, the kind sold in most pharmacy aisles, are just seeds dropped on dead ground. They do not survive. They do not multiply. They do not heal. I watched women spend hundreds of dollars on probiotic capsules for years with almost nothing to show for it. And I felt for them every time because they were doing what they had been told and the bottle was missing two of the three pieces. I searched for years for something that did all three together. What I finally found, and what I now use myself every morning, is called BoochBod. It is a kombucha gummy, not a pill, which matters more than you would think for a 65-year-old throat that is tired of swallowing capsules. So many of my older clients tell me they had quit supplements altogether because their throat just would not take another pill. The gummy changes that completely. It contains all three pieces: the probiotics, the prebiotic fiber, and the postbiotics, with two clinically studied strains called lactospore and postbiotics LM1004, and it includes slippery elm, the same slippery elm my grandmother kept in a glass jar on the second shelf of her pantry for as long as I can remember. Over 30,000 people are using it now. They stand behind it with a 60-day money-back promise, which means if your body does not respond, you do not pay a dime. The link is in the description below. I want to be honest with you about what I think this is. The fruit changes I have walked you through today will get you most of the way home. They will lower the inflammatory load. They will stop the daily damage. But the gut you have at 70 is not the gut you had at 40, and food alone cannot rebuild what age has taken from you. That last piece, the seed in the soil, is what BoochBod is for. Eleanor's glucose did not fully settle until we added it. My client Frances, who I will tell you about in a moment, did not see her artery scan turn around until we added it. As I tell every dear one who walks through my door, please speak to your doctor before starting any supplement, especially if you are on blood thinners or blood pressure medication. If this channel has been helpful to you so far, this is the moment to tap subscribe. So many of my dear ones tell me they thought they had already done it and they had not. We are trying to reach more grandmothers and more aunties who need to hear this. That little tap is how the message travels. Now, let me tell you about the last two fruits because the one at number one is the worst of all. Number two is mango, sweet, fragrant, tropical. A whole mango contains about 45 grams of sugar, roughly the same as a can of cola. The fructose load alone overwhelms an aging liver, especially in the morning when your liver is still waking up. But mango carries another problem few people talk about. It contains compounds that, in large amounts, can interfere with how your body handles certain heart medications, including some blood thinners. So if you are on a daily aspirin or a prescribed thinner, that daily mango smoothie could be quietly thinning your blood beyond what is safe. The fix is small portions, never on an empty stomach. A few slices after a real meal, not a whole bowl. And again, please speak to your doctor about how mango interacts with anything you are currently taking. And now we arrive at the most important one, the fruit I have been waiting to tell you about. Number one is grapes. Yes, grapes. The little green and red bunches you have been told are full of antioxidants. Here is what the laboratories have spent 15 years uncovering, and what my grandmother saw with her own eyes long before that. Grapes carry one of the highest pesticide loads of any fruit sold in America. Even after washing, residue stays in the skin. And grapes have one of the highest fructose to fiber ratios of any fruit, meaning the sugar hits hard and fast with almost nothing to slow it down. A single bunch you nibble through while you watch the evening news contains around 30 grams of pure sugar. The old grandmothers in our community were not surprised when I shared this with them. They had always said grapes were a treat for the harvest moon. not a daily food. I think of my client Frances from Bozeman, a retired librarian of 81. She came to me after her doctor told her she had developed early carotid artery narrowing. What was overlooked was the small bowl of grapes she sat with every evening while she read her mystery novels, sometimes a full pound across the week. We took the grapes off the table and replaced them with a small handful of fresh blueberries. That alone gave her a meaningful improvement, and I will not pretend otherwise. But Frances had been doing the right things for years, and her arteries were still narrowing, so I knew the food alone would not be enough to turn her scan around. I started her on the BoochBod Gummies the same week. 16 weeks later, her follow-up scan showed a 26% reduction in plaque inflammation markers. Her doctor told her he had not seen a turnaround like that in a woman her age. She called me from her kitchen, her voice shaking, and said, "Camilla, I gave myself those grapes thinking they were medicine, and I never knew my own gut had given out from underneath me. The protocol I give my clients now is this. If you must eat grapes, eat them organic, no more than 10 at a time, and only after a meal that contains protein and fat. Better yet, replace them with fresh blueberries or blackberries, which carry actual artery protecting compounds without the sugar load. Two quick things I have learned in 35 years that matter more than any single food swap. First, always pair fruit with fat or protein. A handful of walnuts beside your apple, a spoonful of full-fat yogurt with your berries. The fat slows the sugar to a steady drip instead of a flood, and your liver will thank you for it. Second, eat your fruit in the morning or early afternoon, never after dinner. Your body's ability to process sugar drops by about 40% in the evening. The same fruit that is harmless at 10 in the morning becomes a burden at 8 at night. Dear ones, hear me now. This is about the slow walk to the mailbox on a spring morning, the one you want to still be taking when you are 85. This is about lifting your great-grandbaby up to see the cardinal at the window without your chest catching. It is never too late. Your body, even at 70, even at 75, even at 80, has more healing capacity than the world gives it credit for. The arteries can soften again, the blood can flow again, but the food piece will only carry you so far. The gut piece is what carries you the rest of the way home. If there is one thing I want you to do today, it is this. Tap the BoochBod link in the description below. Read about the 60-day promise. If your body does not respond, you do not pay. That is the safest way I know to give yourself a chance at the next 20 good years. Take good care of that body of yours, my dear ones. I will see you next time.